All right, so welcome. Into besides also where acute inflammation. Acute inflammation. A very, very simple concept to understand. So maybe I make an when you video no one. So you like for me, one likes kakra na or subscribe it. Any comment about a particular topic and so I can just bring it out and we just do that. Into let's get it going. It's anyway acute inflammation. Very simple concept. A very, very simple concept to understand. Acute inflammation. Right. Into inflammation. Acute inflammation. Now, generally, I will say what inflammation is before we go into acute inflammation. Inflammation is the response of vascularized connective tissue to injury. So, no be so because of inflammation, any word ending with itis, conjunctivitis, and all that. Encephalitis, every word be ending with itis, is inflammation. It is very true. But the point is that I will say to me the classical definition for inflammation. And I try to say inflammation is the response of vascularized connective tissue to injury. In case of inflammation, I will say me what tissue. Tissue na me one I will say and also blood vessel. Send a bibi ebe bona and I bibi kana a bit me abua na responding to that. See any blood vessel now ain't responding to injury, but it's inflammation anyhow. Because when you come to the classical sign of inflammation, redness can. If I don't have blood vessel, then I don't have blood there. Well, help the redness. So the can be inflammation is the response of vascularized connective tissue, not just any connective tissue, but connective tissue that is vascularized, or blood vessel. Will respond to injury, that is inflammation. Into the injury, as I keep saying, can be in so many forms. It could be a physical injury, maybe an elbow, it could be chemical injury, radiation, or thermal injury, microorganisms like bacteria, and an invade, or irrespective of the form or cause of injury. Whenever it happens to a tissue that is vascularized, of course, there will be a response, and that response is a inflammation. So inflammation, as I keep saying, say, primarily defensive. Ɛde kyerɛ sɛ seesei a na mfa ne sɛ biribi ahwie gu ane bi ɛma ne sɛ bi a aboa bi koraa invade mu tissue ɛresɛe no. The point is that once I believe sɛ wɔn ayɛ kɔkɔɔ dam sɛ inflammation astart no. Ɛde tena yɛ kɔkɔɔ because ɛde mogya ɛreba hɔ, blood vessel mogya ɛreba hɔ nom. Mogya no nso ba nim sɛ mogya nso deɛ white blood cells wɔ mu, complement proteins wɔ mu, neutrophils wɔ mu, monocytes wɔ mu. Nti wɔn nyinaa ɛreba fight against that bacteria. And if you bring more blood there to bring all these immunocompetent cells to fight against the bacteria. If you think inflammation can be bad, some can say primarily defensive because more blood comes to that area, but white blood cells, complement proteins, and macrophages to destroy the cause of injury, to even neutralize the cause of injury, and to wall off the cause of injury, and even pave the way for repair. Because if any bacteria has some tissue, inflammation may repair. So inflammation can primarily be defensive. However, a bit overact and destroy other tissues. We need pharmacological intervention. It's named immune to stop the inflammation process. Now, types of inflammation. We have two main types of inflammation. There are types There are acute inflammation and there are chronic inflammation. Now, what acute inflammation says high inflammation we start a response on redness, swelling, this stuff starting in term as soon as there's an injury. And ending in term. So it can last like several minutes to several hours or even days. But chronic inflammation and starting inflammatory response and starting term and that's why and this so late into open the classical difference between acute inflammation and chronic inflammation there and your duration. Acute starting term, ending term, chronic and starting term and ending term. That is that. Now, about acute inflammation, your major cell it play a role. And chronic inflammation, so your major cell play a role. Now, major cell play a role in acute inflammation, MCQ. It's so you know, say a neutrophils. Major cell play a role in chronic inflammation, macrophages, and they play a role. Now, let's go. Now, so we are starting off with acute inflammation. Now, this is my tissue. Okay, this is my tissue. And with my tissue, nti wei me tissue na waase sorry me tissue no and now the blood vessel no edam say good and I'm me tissue me cell nso ha say na more bacteria e ha nti me see the same thing as an example nti say we start with acute inflammation nti a bed then acute inflammation okay now bacteria na waase bacteria na release ade bi fe toxins sa ade we no e pa be cell me cells no e be disrupt me cells no in the cells need just be now it will bring out certain chemical mediators, and these chemical mediators are going to mediate different states of what of inflammation. And with inflammation, I will see some cardinal signs. I bet you say inflammation okay. And these are the 5 cardinal signs of inflammation. I have my redness to rubor, pain, yellow, heat, color, swelling, tumor, loss of function and functional release. These are the cardinal signs of inflammation. We never check say inflammation okay. You understand? Actually, loss of function, me who but the point is that when I have swelling, na me redness, ne pain, mean to me use that part of the body name for any human else again. In the balance, I have lost the function of that thing. I can't have loss of function. So, but the 4 major signs in there, I can at least care 4. However, we add 1 to it to be 5. Right. So that is that. Normally, what happens in say? What happens in say? Normally, even without any bacteria too, I'll have my normal blood circulating, right? So when blood comes in there, okay, blood when blood goes in there, it supplies nutrient tissues, and that's the amount of substance that came out of the vessel goes back into the vessel again. That is why we don't have edema. So whatever comes in here, it goes back. That is why we don't have edema. You understand? So that is that. But whenever there's inflammation, the vessel here becomes bigger. Okay, the lumen becomes bigger. So at least more blood will come into that area. For instance, some more bacteria I see. It's a bacterial tissue, same tissue, person me couldn't feel. Now I'll have more blood coming to that area, coming the white blood cells and all sort of stuff to come in here. Number na I was say I'm making the bacteria. In the sana I was say endothelial cells mostly I am compact. I quite know one thing from Mumpi. Some of the chemical mediators will come and act on the endothelial cells now a creating space. So white blood cells no by inside no from it may pee. Whenever there is space between the endothelial cells now, and I can say there is a vascular permeability. Okay, there's vascular permeability. Now let's go to the next thing. Now they call acute inflammation. There are some events happening, very interesting events happening here. Acute inflammation. There are 2 interesting events happening here. There is one called vascular event, and if about cellular event. What are they? Let's go into that. Now, starting with the vascular event. The vascular event now, there are 4 things at least happening there. You call the very first one vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction. The next event is called vasodilation. Vasodilation. The next event is called increased vascular permeability. Increased vascular permeability. And I'm actually for vascular permeability. The next one is then stasis. These are all events happening under vascular events. They are one by one. right? So vasoconstriction. The first one. Now, infant is here, there's inflammation and there's an injury. Now, injury but means okay, you can see. Now, this is not much significant. We know as the early phase of inflammation, this thing happens, but it's not really significant. Now, when you have a cut, there is a neurogenic reflex to prevent blood loss. This is therefore a transient response. We are saying a kind of transient vasoconstriction. Into one who we know transient vasoconstriction, it means the same thing. Anything I can say much significant. The point is to see, and if I have a cut, and I say bacteria be crying, about more than same tissue now. I think I did link more blood and mouth, and can fight against it. But the earliest thing that would do it happens in seconds. Versus not constricted, a kind of reflex be brain have on it just to prevent blood loss. But when it happens, I never now if invest must be it could be like I say, imagine buy now. Now first not constricted. Now brain can say, hey, they will come here more blood. I saw fight against the infection. Then once I be into this is the vasoconstriction happens now. A reflex be I say injury bar and respond to that. But a very transient, very it happens in seconds. Then it goes back to nervous coagulability. Into the first event that happens under acute or under vascular event is vasoconstriction. And I'm saying a transient and check. And I'm saying a reflex. So at least you have more blood to fight. But initially, with the introduction of the injury or the insult, the brain works to constrict the vessels. Now the intention is person will lose blood BP. But on the second thought, once there be, you need more blood to fight against it and to get back your vasodilation. In the next vascular event, the next vascular event is called vasodilation. Vasodilation. Into vessel near a constrict and not the mamma na for dilate. That's called vasodilation. So there more blood will come to that area. And into this is a localized vasodilation. Baby, I damage in one. A hormone na vessel in the back say na the more blood. That's what I say. So more blood, because when more blood comes there, it comes with more macrophages. Into more blood every room, more white blood cells beba because blood bad yeah, or the white blood cell beba, or the more antibodies beba, or the more complement put inside the beba. Anything ideality, there are mast cells, histamine. They are mediators of inflammation. This histamine will go and bind to the smooth muscles of the vessel and therefore dilate the vessel. So there are more blood will go into that area to fight against the infection. So vasodilation happens and increase blood flow. But some more blood every room. So when more blood goes in there, what is going to happen? The place is going to become reddish. And if more blood goes there, there will be heat as well. And someone say under vasodilation event, under vascular event, you have two main signs of inflammation, which is redness and heat. You have vasodilation under the vascular event, redness and the heat. I didn't tell because the vessel dilates, and when the vessel dilates, more blood will come there. So more blood bounce, they will be more reddish. Some more blood bounce, there will be heat over there. It may not two signs need the vasodilation. The next event is increased vascular permeability. Increase vascular permeability. You see, vessel may be I can see. I have all here be my I have your all be dilating say me cells ni be den ha me white blood cells no no egu ase ya at least on say so bacteria no ase same tissue no into nyame dom be more blood aba into the vessel am say near vasodilation aba inside see when white blood cells ne neutrophils ne monocytes at least some fight against it but on say when endothelial cells no nti sɛ ɛkwan na mu a sɛ ɛkwan na mu a wontumi mfa mu mbie nti some of the chemical mediators like histamine no ɛbɛba abɛcreate gaps ɛwɔ ha sei mo sɛ ɔma create gaps ɛwɔ ha sei spaces wɔ ha this species now these complement proteins, high blood cells everything no, or make me leaky afam. Now one by tissue one, be a bacteria one, now one by fight against the bacteria. You see, because of vascular permeability, these endothelial cells no gaps are created ama the cells in the blood now they leaky about one thing. What I say. Now here I want us to consider something called edema. Edema. Sorry. Now under edema, we have two things over here. We have exudates and transudates. I'm struggling a bit. I'm not using and exudates and transudates. Oh, forgive me. I'm using mouse, so transudates. Bah, right. So we can compensate. So yes, and then you have edema and exudate and transudate. Now what's the difference? Now the escape of fluid, on saying because of space away the means, in so in so bit remember the plasma the so the water aspect bit remember and our cells and remember proteins, open proteins, everything remember because there will be gaps in there. Okay, let me make it this way. So because there will be gaps in there. So in the gaps never pretty well saying Emma proteins ne in so not me from be. Instead of the maybe the proteins. Ana water aspect. NC when you can see edema. Edema is the escape of fluid from the vascular compartment to extravascular compartment. Into when I have fluid leaking from the vessel to the tissues are mefenu edema. Ana edema no you will exudate and transudate. So an edema can be exudate, a bit inside transudate, then exudate. Exudate in say fluid in a buy because of the gaps in the proteins also no. Proteins inside to me aba. Into I have fluid and proteins. I have fluid and proteins. And this fluid and proteins no is called exudate. It's called exudate. It's called exudate. Until when I have fluid leaking plus proteins, because the gaps na a too big say proteins so it's my then have my pee. In the bands I have what do you call? I'll have my fluid and proteins, and that is called yes. So let me quickly do this. Yes, yes. So once I see many gaps here. Let me put this way again. Yes, into once vascular permeability because the endothelial cells no one says no omuni honum because is the what do you call the chemical mediators abe on it. I may say gaps about them and the balance had things in there and it can leave. So from the vascular permeability now it's not permeable. It's not permeable. You see it have proteins in there and then when a woman no they can leak out. They can leak out and come out with water. Sometimes your edema, okay, your edema and your exudates. And in short, near exudates and near transudates. I'm struggling a bit too. And near transudates. So you can just write. And I'm gonna say edema is the escape of fluid from the vascular compartment to extravascular compartment. But because exudate, exudate, they come a fluid that comes with proteins. The protein-rich fluid is called exudate. But sometimes the space will not be too much. Say fluid in bar, not protein so the jaba. Nti bo ma menya protein menya nso but na protein can because the space there no too much say protein betimi aba bonten. That becomes intransudate. Into transudate a protein poor and exudate a protein rich. I didn't know exudate because the gaps need too much into water buying and a fluid buying proteins in baby about this space extravascular space into a very exudate. But transudate there fluid bio but the gaps wasn't too much. Say proteins between the ababi that becomes a transudate. Anything like I exudates are protein rich fluids and transudates are protein poor fluids. And I can say edema. Edema is the escape of fluid from the vascular compartment to extravascular compartment. And edema can be exudate or transudate. So all these proteins will come here in an attempt to fight against the bacteria we have here. So whenever we say vascular or increased vascular permeability, it means that it is going to decrease it's going to decrease, or let me say, going to degenerate the epithelial cells over here, so that it creates gaps, so that the cells and everything will come in here to fight against the bacteria. That is the increased vascular permeability. Now the next one is stasis. Now, blood moves slowly. You understand? Why? Because they are aggregated cells. You see, plasma leaks inside the plasma, the watery aspect, it leaks because there's what vascular what permeability. Into the plasma leaks. Into the sana, you have some cells over there. Cells need be aggregated because there are other cells too there. Onto their blood cells. Into be aggregated. Inside can fluid wɔ mu a anka ebe moving normally but fluid no afiri nsuo no afiri mu no nti no the cells over there aggregated nti ntumi nkɔ ntɛm sɛneɛ ɔwɔ sɛ ka ɛkɔ no fluid adi ne kɔ no that is called stasis. Nti aggregated cells in there because of the plasma leaks out, the watery aspect leaks out nti cells no aka wɔ mu no be aggregated and so blood moves slowly because and this is stasis, right? So what it means is that and the vascular events, there are four. Vasoconstriction, where initially it's a trauma nearby quickly, with the neurogenic reflex, vessel be constricted. Now our some backs A. So that becomes transient vasoconstriction. Now some backs A there be. I mean dilating and we baby na to fight against the infection. Next they be what vasocot dilation. If you are now feel say more blood bomb via I feel say if free the endothelium na afei ɛba bia bacteria no wɔ no and that's what increase vascular permeability where the endothelial cells gaps ɛbɛ develop wɔ mu sɛnea bia the cells na ɛba want to fight against the infection and ɛwɔ last one stasis. And stasis said that if blood no move slowly then because the plasma the watery aspect na leak about one thing there cells na ɛwɔ mu no wɔn ntumi ɛnflow yie because nsuo na ɛma mu flow yie nti ɛba nsa na blood will move slow because of the plasma leaks out. That is that. Area vascular events. And the vascular events in number 4, that is what vasoconstriction, that is transient vasoconstriction, followed by vasodilation, followed by increased vascular permeability, followed by stasis. Now, if you do cellular events, what are the cellular events? Now, more margination, rolling, adhesion, transmigration, or diapedesis, chemotaxis, oxidation, and phagocytosis. In Tibet, and bed, one after the other. Now, this is cellular event. If you now happens an acute inflammation, and I'm actually say under acute, you will what do you call two events? You will the vascular event near ace of blood vessels, and a year what do you call the cellular event near cells ni be here. After you do cellular events, if we have rolling, we have adhesion, we have diapedesis, near hemotaxis. If we are in the next video, I'll talk about how phagocytosis and all that. So when you like the video, you subscribe, and I bring it to you. Now, cellular events, your margination. your ruling, adhesion, diapedesis, chemotaxis, and then that's what they all mean. Right. Now the point is that within the blood, you see how we have the bacteria here. So when you target the bacteria. So what are the steps that goes on with cellular events? One say within here, I have these cells over there. In terms of we cry, and we are neutrophils. Now, how do they come to the vessel, leak, come out? So they target the bacteria and kill. A quite benzo. And let's look at that. Now, when we say we a blood vessel, okay, and that blood vessel they are lined by endothelial cells. In the endothelial cells, it prevents blood from getting clotted. Until they prevent blood clotting. Now, in inflammation, certain chemical may release it may create space in the nuclear cells, and that is called vascular permeability. Good. Now, you see how these cells are moving. These cells that I need them to go and fight the bacteria, and move it. Into a quiet bench, no minimum. That is that process. Into once I in your receptors, they are called proteins from selectins. Some malleable selectins. And I want to say this kind of cells in some more. And they want to lock the selectins. They form the integrins. The selectins are here, and you have the integrins. Do you know what is happening? You know what happened? In your business side, while they're moving, the selectins will trap some of the cells from wherever they are to the periphery, to the margin of the vessel. I know, you understand? Into the process whereby the cells in the plasma move towards the periphery. That is called margination. Because a young I will see they say you can trump back the margin of the vessel. You know one by fancy. So into the process whereby the cells move from the plasma wherever they are to the margin of the vessel is called margination. Into this process, that is called margination. Now, when it comes to margination, this cell has bind to the selectin. You know what it's going to do? It is going to roll. It's going to roll until every say it means I have a top reasons. I have a top reasons until like it keep rolling like that. And that is rolling. So first step, there is margination, okay, where margination because it moves to the margin. Where the cells move to the margin, that's margination. Once it gets there, it will roll. That is called rolling. And while they're rolling, they'll be adhered to the cells, and that is called adhesion. Now, once they get here, there's this thing here. You see the arrows here. They are called PCAMs because of the pores in there. It need too big, sir. Man, but it need too big, sir. Into the cell there from I say it will be forcing itself to change the configuration, the shape necessary. Into the process whereby the cell is getting its way through the endothelial cells. It's called diapedesis. The process whereby the cell forces its way to leave the endothelial cells is called diapedesis. Let's go on. The first sort margination, where the cells move from the periphery and let us say move from the vessel wherever they are, and then get trapped by the selectins to the margin. That is called margination. When there's margination, or try to move it. What the integrants, what no move, no the next one. Now the next one, the next one. And that is called rolling. In the say don't if some pure. That is called rolling. So by way of rolling, it will be as a bad headed to the cells. Bad headed, so that makes about adhesion. And once it gets here, it will go through the endothelial cells. But the space I had any too big say or between shape because we have some. It's the configuration but now are very normal. It's the process whereby the cells, okay, leaves the endothelial lining and escape the vessel, and that's called diapedesis. Once they leave, they'll have the normal shape back. But the point is that one say has in a cell the wall, and damage, bacteria and one say cause damage. In say bacteria in your pee and sorry the cell in your pee, you beat him for this direction. You can go to this direction. Nti kwan bɛ na epia a ɛbɛkɔ this bacteria ɔhɔ na akɔkɔ destroy no. Nti ɛnyɛ pie wɔ abɔnten pɛ, na afei chemical mediators no a ɛwɔ ha sei no, ɔmo asɛne signal to the cell. Sɛ mpatwɛw ha na bacteria no wɔ n'abra, sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ a ɔnleave this way ɛnkɔ different parts of the tissue. Na ɛbɛkɔ bea ɛhɔ hia no. Nti ɔnya pie baeɛ na ɔmo awɛlkame no. The tissue no asɛne signal a ɛyɛ the chemical mediators asɛne signal ma no na ɔmove to that direction. Into this process, whereby the cell sends signals, that is the chemical mediators to the cell, to move the cell to the site of infection. This is called chemotaxis. 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 So we're looking at, so we know what are the events. So the cell events, you know, margination, where the cell move from wherever they are to the selectins. Okay. And then when they get there, they will roll. They will keep rolling. So that becomes rolling. And by way of rolling, they'll be heading to the endothelial cells. That's adhesion. And once that happens, when they get here, with the help of the PCAMs and whatever, they'll find a way to leave to the endothelial cells and come out to the tissue. So the process whereby they leave and come out is called diapedesis. And once they come here, how will they know whether the bacteria is here or not? The cells release chemical mediators and send signal to the cell or the neutrophil that hey, the bacteria is here, so please come here. Now fail and the process whereby the signal sent to the cell, maybe chemical mediators for the cell to move into that direction is called chemotaxis. Now look at a video, it's a simple video on that. It's a very simple video on that. Okay. The same imagination, when it comes to imagination rolling, then adhesion, diapedesis, then chemotaxis. One more. So imagination, rolling, adhesion, diapedesis, and then chemotaxis. Imagination, rolling, adhesion, diapedesis, chemotaxis. Thank you.